Radhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jai Braj Jana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jai Braj Jana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada Jai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhav ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 6. Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tavad bhayam dravinadeha suhrin nimittam. Tavad bhayam dravinadeha suhrin nimittam. Shoka spriha paribhava vipulas chalobha. Shoka spriha paribhava vipulas chalobha. Tavad mametya sad avagraha arti moolam. Tavan mametya sad avagraha arti moolam yavannate nigrim abhayam pravrinita loka yavannate grim abhayam pravrinita loka Tavad bhayam dravina deha suhrinna nimittam shoka spriha paribhavo vipulasya lobha tavan mametya sad avagraha arti moolam yavan naten grim abhayam pravrinita loka. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertakings in the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. The word for translation, tavat, until then, bhayam, fear, dravina, wealth, deha, body, suhrit, relatives, nimittam, for the matter of, shoka, lamentation, spriha, desire, paribhava, paraphernalia, vipula, very great, cha, also, lobha, avarice, tavat, up to that time, mama, mine, iti, thus, asat, perishable, avagraha, undertaking, arti, mulam, full of anxieties, yavat, as long as, na, do not, te, your, angrim, abhayam, safe lotus feet, pravrinita, take shelter, loka, the people of the world. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. Purport. One may question how one can always think of the Lord in regard to his name, fame, quality, etc., if one is embarrassed by thoughts of family affairs. Everyone in the material world is full of thoughts about how to maintain his family, how to protect his wealth, how to keep pace with friends and relatives, etc. Thus, he is always in fear and lamentation and trying to keep up with the status quo. In answer to this question, this verse spoken by Brahma is very appropriate. A pure devotee of the Lord never thinks of himself as the proprietor of his home. He surrenders everything unto the supreme control of the Lord, and thus he has no fear for maintaining his family or protecting the interests of his family. Because of this surrender, he no longer has any attraction for wealth. Even if there's attraction for wealth, it is not for sense enjoyment, but for the service of the Lord. A pure devotee may be attracted to accumulating wealth just like an ordinary man. But the difference is that a devotee acquires money for the service of the Lord, whereas the ordinary man acquires money for his sense enjoyment. Thus, the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxieties, as is the case for a worldly man. And because a pure devotee accepts everything in the sense of serving the Lord, the poisonous teeth of accumulation of wealth are extracted. If a snake has its poison removed and bites a man, there's no fatal effect. Similarly, wealth accumulated in the cause of the Lord has no poisonous teeth, and the effect is not fatal. A pure devotee is never entangled in material worldly affairs, even though he may remain in the world like an ordinary man. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. So this is a very powerful, amazing verse, very hard-hitting, as many verses, as all the verses of the Bhagavatam are. And it's contrasting the situation of the person in material life, absorbed in material thoughts, and the person absorbed in spiritual thoughts, or the person who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I just was recently thinking about, or you could say, reminded of the pastime of Krishna and Sudama, the Sudama Brahman. You all kind of saw that that clip that I shared on the WhatsApp groups of Krishna and Sudama, and that beautiful bhajan that goes along with it. And I was thinking that's such a amazing, such a wonderful example of this verse. And I particularly like that that clip because very much so it's the essence of our entire philosophy. Because we see how Sudama was not at all concerned about his material prosperity, his material wealth. His number one concern was Krishna. His number one concern was thinking of Krishna, worshiping Krishna, loving Krishna, his eternal friend Krishna, who was also his friend in his childhood. And Sudama Brahman, therefore, was always feeling great separation from Krishna. And one fine day, his wife and his children, they mentioned to him that you have a great friend who's now the king of Dwarka, who's so wealthy, so prosperous. Why don't you go and see your friend Krishna? And Sudama Brahman was very, very poor. He hardly had food to eat. He was hardly, able to maintain himself and his family. He was very lean and thin because of a lack of food. Just had one piece of cloth that he wore and a small hermitage. And being very distressed by poverty, his wife appealed to him that please go to your friend Krishna. Surely he will give you something. So Sudama Brahman, being an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, he never even thought of Krishna in that context, in that line of thought. He was approaching Krishna, but only for pure devotional service. Just 2 days ago, was it? Yes, we were discussing, and Maharaj was mentioning how pure devotional service is also not just the service, but the motivation by which we do that service. What is the intention? So his only intention was to please Krishna. So he never thought of Krishna, that he's a wealthy person, he can help me. But his wife appeals to him. And he also, as a devotee, had a responsibility to care for, to take care of his family, who were also devotees. And they were starving. On account of his absorption in Krishna, he had sort of forgotten or was not cognizant of the fact that they were, in distress. So when she requests him, then he says, how can I go to Krishna and ask him for anything? But she really requests him. And so he thinks, well, anyway, I have been thinking that I want to go and meet Krishna. I want to go and see Krishna. And it's very significant that Sudama Brahman is a pure devotee of the Lord. He was Krishna's own friend. And he was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Yet until now, he hadn't gone to see Krishna. Showing how our service to the Lord is more important than actually meeting the Lord. Krishna says this in the Krishna book, also to the gopis. He says how love for me is not developed by physical proximity, but love for me is developed by hearing about me, by chanting about me, by remembering me. That is how love is developed. That is how one becomes a pure devotee. So he was faithfully serving the Lord, hearing about the Lord, chanting about the Lord, and in this way developing his love for the Lord. And he was thinking in his mind, he had a great desire, a great longing to go and see Krishna. And he saw his wife's request as Krishna's indication that now he should come, like a catalyst. Like what Krishna is now giving an opportunity, a pathway, a reason to go. So he decides to go and see Krishna. And as we all know the story, he goes with one little pouch of rice because he still wants to take some gift for Krishna. Imagine how much of a relationship, a friendship this is, that he wants to take a gift for Krishna. And in his taking of a gift for Krishna, he takes that pouch and gives it to Krishna. And Krishna accepts that as the most wonderful, most glorious gift that he could ever have. So we see how Krishna, seeing his devotee, he ran and embraced Sudama Brahman. He sat him on his own throne. He didn't seat him, like the king. Next to the king are very, very wonderful seats. And when you go and you meet someone in their office, they sit in their office chair, and you sit in a chair, a very nice chair, but next to them. So Krishna could have easily given him a nice seat in his assembly, in his room, but he gives him his own throne to sit on. And then he has Queen Rukmini, Mother Rukmini, to wash his lotus feet, Sudama's lotus feet, which is also very significant because, especially in Vedic culture, women would never touch the body of another man. It is completely impossible that a woman could touch the body of another man. But he's not a man. Sudama's a saint. You see, this is the difference between a saint and a man. And Krishna is showing that he's not material. He's a spiritual, purified being. And so he cleans. He has Queen Rukmini wash the lotus feet of Sudama Brahman, and the Lord himself washes his feet with the tears from his eyes. And what we see is the great example here that's being described here is how even Krishna is washing the feet of his devotee. And even the Supreme Lord washes the feet of his pure devotees. How dear they are to him. And that's the essence, that's the whole essence of our philosophy. That Krishna loves his devotees so much. He's so grateful to his devotees. He's so affectionate to his devotees. And how great is pure devotional service, that it conquers Krishna's heart so much that he washes the feet of his own devotees. And then when Sudama Brahman is meeting with Krishna, even though he's come for the purpose to ask Krishna for something, sent by his wife and children, he is unable to ask. And it's described, Krishna knows that he has this sort of stress on his mind that he's supposed to ask. If he goes back home and nothing has changed and he doesn't bring something home, then what will his wife and children say? How will he approach them? But Sudama will not ask, nor will Krishna say. But when Sudama returns home, then his small thatched hut has become into an entire palace. That his whole home is transformed into a beautiful palace with wealth, money, everything, no shortage. And it's described that when Krishna was taking the grains, the palm, the morsels of rice that Sudama had brought. Initially, when he meets Krishna, and then Krishna snatches that, he can understand this is the gift of love that he's brought. It's not a big gift, but it's a gift of love. And so therefore it's the greatest gift. Prabhupada in one place says that Krishna does not see what we give. Krishna sees what we keep. Because Krishna is the most intelligent. So some, multimillionaire walks in the temple and he gives a donation for $100,000. Another person who has nothing, he comes in and he gives $10. But Krishna will see Krishna will accept as a greater gift who has more left. So the person who gives $10, if he has only $1 left, then he's a bigger donor than the person who gives 100,000 but has $1 million left in his bank. So Krishna sees not what we give, but what we keep. So Sudama had nothing in his home. He gave everything he had. That was the only morsels of rice that they did not have enough to eat, and that what he had, he gave to Krishna. Still, he did not ask Krishna for anything. The quality of a great devotee, and we see this. This is the quality of great devotees. They don't ask for anything. Sometimes it's very mystical, very bewildering for the materialist or the materially minded devotees. That why not? They're asking, but the devotee will not ask because they don't want anything from the Lord. And so he this is all he had, and he gives it to Krishna. so because he gave everything that he had for Krishna, it was so significant service. So giving a small little pouch of rice to the Lord, we do not see as a great service. Similarly, someone's coming and offering something to the Lord externally, it may not seem as a great service. But if that's the only attachment a person has, and they offer it, if that's the only possession a person has and they offer it to Krishna, then that may be the greatest gift that Krishna is waiting for. There's the example of the life of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. He Bhakti Charu Maharaj. I grew up in a very aristocratic Bengali family, but at that time he was just poor. He was just like single. And when he got initiated by Srila Prabhupada, then after his initiation, all of the disciples went to collect Guru Dakshina. And he also went to collect, but he got very little. He came back with a few rupees. So he came back and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I don't have anything to give to you, any money to give to you. And Prabhupada says, that's okay. You haven't given money to me. You've given your life to me. And at that time, Bhakti Charu Maharaj said that he could understand that Prabhupada was most intelligent because Prabhupada was a genius. In not taking his money, he claimed Bhakti Charu Maharaj's life. He hadn't given his life, but Prabhupada said, you've given my life. So it became an instruction for him. And of course, he was Bhakti Charu Maharaj. So he gave his life. So he only had his life to give, his body to give, his whole life to give, and he gave that, and therefore he was pure devotee, right? So it's not the big thing; it's our attachment. Similarly, we may have a feeling of anger or resentment towards Krishna or a devotee, and we don't have any attachments, but we're attached to that. We're attached to that anartha in our heart. And if we can give up that anartha to Krishna, then there's nothing bigger than we can give, because we can give everything else. We can do everything else. We can do absolutely anything for Krishna. But we can't do that because we have, that attachment, that feeling. And that then Krishna, we give up that becomes the greatest gift. Like His Grace Gauranga Prabhu, he gives the example. This is a most wonderful, and he told this story when he came to Naperville also. It's his favorite story, and it's now become one of mine. One time there's this devotee, and he goes to Srila Prabhupada, and he was this wonderful, very sincere devotee living in the temple. And because of his sincerity, he was, very dependable and very good and very dedicated devotee. And the devotees, that temple needed a temple president. So the devotees were indicating to him that he should become the temple president. And the temple needed a president. There had to be. So then Srila Prabhupada came. And he knew that when Srila Prabhupada would come, then he's going to ask him to become the temple president. Now, being a very genuine devotee, he didn't want to be president, right? He didn't want that position of power and honor, and because devotees don't want that. They do it only as a service, as a sacrifice, but they don't want it. So he's like, I don't want this service, and Prabhupada's going to come and ask me for it. So he had prepared all of his arguments. When Prabhupada asks him if he can be president, all the good reasons that he'll give why he cannot be president, right? So he had a family, a young family, he had small children, he had a wife, he had a new job, he was, maybe some health issues. Like, he had made this whole list that Prabhupada, when he's asking, I said, I can do other services. And also, not just that, he had other very wonderful services he was already part of. Like, he was part of the Sankirtan party, and he was doing wonderful book distribution. So if he became president, that would suffer. He was willing to do anything for Krishna, just not president, right? So he had all that prepared. So Prabhupada called him in his room. As he expected, he knew, I could foresee it. Prabhupada's going to call me. He called in his room. He took his sheet of paper, his notepad with all of his arguments. He went into the room. And when he goes into the room, he offers his obeisances and gets up and sees Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada says, so how are you? He says, yes, I'm well, Srila Prabhupada. How is your family? He says, yes, everything's really nice, Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada says, so I have one request of you. And he said, it's coming. Prabhupada's going to ask. He said, I have one request of you. So what is the request? I would like you to take sannyas. And when he hears this, then, he drops the bead bag in his hand. He's just has a family, new family, just married. Prabhupada, you're asking him to take sannyas. And Prabhupada says, I would like you to take sannyas. He says, no, Prabhupada, I cannot take sannyas. I have a new family. I have this. Prabhupada, I cannot take sannyas. He says, no. Why is there a problem? There's no reason to be attached. Don't you know this body is temporary? Life is temporary. You should become detached. Take sannyas. He says, no, Prabhupada, I'm just not there. It's not possible. So by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, everything is possible. You should take sannyas. He says, no, Prabhupada, I cannot do it. I'll do anything else for you. I just cannot take sannyas. So Prabhupada said, okay, so become temple president. And then he was defeated by Prabhupada. He told Prabhupada, I'll do anything else, just not take sannyas. He said, okay, become temple president. And so he had to become temple president. So Prabhupada was the greatest genius. And this is why you can never outsmart a pure devotee. Because the pure devotee is always 2 steps ahead of you. Because they already know what's in your heart. They're in touch with Krishna in the heart. They already know. So we go prepared, but they know that we're coming prepared. And so this is so So Krishna sees what we are keeping, not what we are giving. What are we keeping for ourselves and not giving to Krishna? That's what he's interested in. So Sudama Brahman gave everything that he had. And when Krishna was then eating the morsels of his rice, there were exactly 3 morsels or 3 palmfuls. Then Queen Rukmini was watching. And, already she's thunderstruck by who is this devotee, where Krishna's running outside like an ordinary man. He's the king of Dwarka. He's running and embracing him and receiving him. Who is this person whose feet he's washing? And now he's eating his rotten, broken, old rice. This was old rice. This was something he had collected, by begging people. When you go and beg, then people don't give their best rice. They give the rice that's about to spoil. And Krishna has a very delicate diet. She's very concerned he'll eat this raw rice and, he shouldn't get dysentery the next day. And so she doesn't want Krishna to have this rice, this broken rice. But more than that, she knows what this means, because of course she's the goddess of fortune, the greatest devotee. So Krishna takes 1 morsel and she cannot say anything. Then he takes the 2nd morsel. She doesn't say anything. And then Krishna's about to take the 3rd morsel and she stops him. And she says, keep something for your other devotees. If you take all 3 morsels, you will have to give him all the 3 worlds. You'll have to give Sudama Brahman all the 3 worlds. You have to make him the king of all the 3 worlds. But keep something for your other devotees or for yourself. This is enough. This is just kind of a side story. But this is the effect of offering ourselves to the Lord, surrendering ourselves to the Lord. Because when we surrender ourselves to the Lord completely, wholly, when we give ourselves to the Lord, then the only equivalent reciprocation that Krishna can give is to give himself to the devotee. Ye yathamam prapadyate tan sateva bhajamyaham. Krishna says in the Gita, as all people come to me, I reward them accordingly. This is his promise. So if we are giving ourselves to Krishna, then Krishna has to give equal. He has to give himself back. So if we give ourselves to the Lord, we get Krishna. And this is what Krishna tells the gopis also, that you have given up everything for my service. You gave up your families. You gave up your social position. And we think, that's easy. If you're going to get Krishna, that's easy. But when they gave that up, they didn't know that they were going to get Krishna's association. And it's easy, but that's the thing. We cannot give it up, right? It's very difficult, to lose our friends and to lose our social situation. And the gopis, you gave up everything and you came to me. And therefore, Krishna says, I cannot repay this. I cannot repay your unalloyed devotion. I can only give myself to you, and please let your own devotional activities be your own reward. Let the bhakti itself be the reward, because there's nothing in the 3 worlds that I have now left to give you, because I can't match that. If Krishna gives himself, all the 3 worlds are within him, then he gives the 3 worlds to the devotee. So Krishna, therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna gives first to his devotee. His first wave of mercy comes in the form of tormenting suffering. First wave of mercy to the devotees, he gives them a lot of suffering. His second wave of mercy is the shower of sweet bhakti rasa on his devotee. He gives a shower. He inundates that devotee after testing him, after purifying him, after teaching him. He gives him a shower of sweet bhakti rasa. And the third wave of Krishna's mercy is Krishna gives his devotee his very self. He gives himself to the devotee. There's nothing more. Bhakti rasa, the wave, showers there, everything, but then he becomes so indebted to that devotee that he gives himself. And Prabhupada actually said that this is why it's so wonderful and so important to preach Krishna consciousness. Because when we preach Krishna consciousness, then the spiritual master becomes indebted to his disciple. He feels a debt to his disciple. And the Lord also therefore feels indebted to that devotee. When we preach, because then we are, like they say, when you take care of your own children, then you are helping you can never, but you're helping repay the debt to your parents, because you are undergoing the same sacrifice that they did as a service to them. In the same way, the disciple, when he's preaching, he's doing this as a service to his spiritual master for his pleasure. And then the spiritual master, because he's doing this very work that his spiritual master ordered him to do, because the disciple is trying to fulfill the work of a spiritual master, the spiritual master feels very indebted. And in all services, to further the Krishna consciousness movement, when we're helping, then Prabhupada feels very indebted, because we are fulfilling the instruction that he received from his spiritual master. We are helping him fulfill that instruction. So this attraction for wealth here that's being mentioned, this attraction for wealth is very, very strong. But a pure devotee of the Lord depends, like Sudama Brahman, he depends on the Lord to fulfill the need of his wealth. He does not meditate on how to accumulate wealth all the time, but rather he meditates on Krishna, and Krishna fulfills his needs. Actually, they did a study and they found that people who are into making money, who are after wealth, sometimes you'll see, like, there's such, avid business persons, so passionate about their work. Even at the expense of losing their family, they'll be making money. They make so much money, they have no time for their family, they lose their family, and they keep making money. And they, like big CEOs, most of them aren't married because they just have no time left for their family. They become so absorbed in their profession. And they did a study and they found that the thrill of making money, when they do business and they make a lot of money, like, they made $1 million off the stock market, or their products are selling $1 million, that thrill is the same thrill in the brain chemically that people get after taking heroin. So it's like an intoxication. Making money is an intoxication. So that's the same thing. It's a material attachment. It's a material intoxication. And given we're starting the month of Kartik, last point, and then I'll just end here. When Narad Muni, he meets Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they are bathing naked in the lakes of Lord Shiva's abode with so many young girls. Then he sees that they've lost all sense of decency. They've become, shamelessly they're doing. And Narad Muni, in those words there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that section, he writes how in this world there's no greater intoxication, no greater source of attachment and pride and intoxication than wealth, than money. He says how all the other sinful activities and bad qualities in a person come from the start of wealth, when misapplied, when applied in material things. Because you see that a poor man cannot drink. He has no money to buy alcohol. A poor man cannot perform big sinful activities. A poor man is forced to remain humble because he's poor. A poor man generally ends up at the temple, and a poor man is easily approached by a devotee. Now, by a poor man, I don't mean, the drug addicts that we see on the street, or, that's not what I mean. That's a different issue, that's intoxication, all these things. But I mean a poor man who's like a sane poor man. You see people who are poor, have simple lives, they go and they work really hard and they come home, and the greatest pleasure that they have is sitting in front of the TV for 15 minutes at night before they fall asleep while watching TV, eating a nice pizza. There's not much, potential there for big sinful activities. Unlike people like Hitler and Putin and all these people who had so much money, so much power, they can do whatever they like. because money allows us to perform the other sinful activities. People who are wealthy, they can go and hire prostitutes. People who are wealthy, they can go and, squander it on material possessions. So wealth is something that a devotee is very careful with. Wealth is something that we embrace, but we use it only for Krishna's service. Wealth is something that because it's so a razor's edge, it's something that we immediately want to engage in Krishna's service. If we keep it for too long, it disappears. If we keep it too long, it can misguide us. So when we have it, we should use it in Krishna's service. And that is how we can have the wealth, but without the snake's teeth. When we use it in Krishna's service, we still have the snake, which is wealth, but it's without its teeth. Prabhupada here in the purport is saying the teeth is broken and goes away. So I'll stop here already over time. I apologize. If there's any comments, corrections, questions.
Hare Krishna, Gopal Hari Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shiguru and Shigaranga. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful class, Prabhuji. I was just, it just stays with you how you described this this part of, Krishna sees what you hold back, not what you have. And, it was good reiteration because, I'd heard that before. And, when we keep forgetting these things. So when you brought that point up, it's really beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And then how sweet this pastime of Sudama that is also is very wonderful. And then this how wealth is this worst thing that for a person, because all those bad stuff that starts, it's from having the wealth. So we always hear this envy and lust as this very bad qualities, but I mean it all starts with the wealth, if we even go one step further. So it's really nice. And that is all. So thank you so much for such a wonderful contemplation for this morning, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. And it's actually so true. Actually, like people who are very wealthy, they do a lot of drinking and they have big parties.
Yeah.
We were with Devaki Nandan Prabhu, and he did a program at a wealthy person's home, like really, really wealthy. And he was given instructions to keep the program short because after the program, they were all going to go to the bar and have drinks.
Oh, wow.
It's like
that is.
It's Indian family.
Wow.
They're all
Krishna.
Indian families, and the Indian families who are very wealthy, you see, they're oftentimes more engaged in this than anyone else.
That's very true. Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you. I mean, I know even personally, not even just, millionaire, but like even just people who have these this money, they also are all part of these things. So it's like sad, you feel compassion for them, not understanding and they're in ignorance, but hopefully we can only pray to Krishna many times that, everyone can get some kind of association of devotees so that they can come out of this ignorance. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And that's why also just as one quick thing that in wealthy countries, spreading Krishna consciousness is harder. Yeah, it's a fact.
Yeah.
In America, it's so difficult because people are well off. And in other countries where their people are less prosperous or materially less, they accept Krishna consciousness more easily.
Very
also,
true.
Regarding Sudama Brahman that you were saying, there's one more sequel to that pastime that I forgot. I intended to tell, I completely forgot. When Sudama and Krishna are students in Sandipani Muni's ashram, then one day there's a great thunderstorm that takes place when Sudama and Krishna are out collecting wood for Sandipani Muni. And when they're out collecting wood, and the thunderstorm comes, then Krishna has the bundle of wood that they've collected, without which they won't go back home because they can't go empty-handed. They need to take it. And on the other side, he has his friend Sudama. Only they two were there. And Krishna at that time, in one hand, in one arm, he holds the sticks. And in the other hand, he holds the hand of Sudama. And so he's holding one hand of Sudama, the other hand the sticks, and walking through the thunderstorm. And the message in that pastime is that Krishna is showing by example that how a devotee in his devotional service always does two things. He is fulfilling the instructions of his spiritual master, and that's the bundle of sticks. And simultaneously, he is holding the hands of the other devotees. Simultaneously, yes, he's fulfilling that instruction with other devotees. Like he's making friendship with the devotee. So how both things are important. One thing is, okay, I have to fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master, fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master, but the devotees around me don't exist. They don't. The other thing is, the devotees are there. Let's associate with them. Let's make relationships with them. But it just just association and friendship, service is not
enough.
Either one by itself is incomplete, but both of them together, then it becomes complete.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Even that analogy that you gave of how the making money is like it's like I guess it gives you high as much as heroin. You said that was the first I heard. I have never heard that. That was very profound. Like, oh my gosh. That's thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.
It's like you have revealed everything, and still we continue to do this thing, playing this with Krishna, even though we know very well what he sees what we are holding back. Still day after day we play the same drama to him. I can only give this much to you. I can only give this much. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. It was all very, very, everything was brought out by all your examples. Thank you so much. Feel kind of completely defeated. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very happy to have your blessings and encouragement.
So much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavata Pranam.
Hare Krishna.